Hello and welcome back to Victory Lane Sports Talk. I'm your host Noah, and today we will be reviewing some of the biggest NASCAR controversies from the past couple weeks. So there's been a lot to get to, but first and foremost, definitely one of the biggest stories this year was the controversy surrounding Ross Chastain. So he's one of the bigger, newer stars in the sport. He really came alive last year. He made the championship and everything. But everyone kind of figured out last year that his driving style is definitely aggressive. He's made many enemies this year, especially. But last year, his biggest rivalry was with Denny Hamlin, and there's still some bad blood there. They had a bit of run in that gateway last year. They were just beating and banging and driving each other off the track and everything, and it was crazy to watch. But this year he has expanded that list, expanded that target on his back. He wrecked Larson out at Dover when Larson had a really fast car that week. And then he had a post-race altercation with Noah Gragson as well after the Kansas race, which led to punches being thrown, and security had to break it up pretty quickly. And then he followed that up by wrecking Larson once again at Darlington while he was attempting to squeeze him into the wall. So discussions have been made between Chastain and Trackhouse on how to better control his aggressive driving style, because obviously you don't want to take that out of his repertoire, because it's not every day that you see a driver with a really distinct driving style. It kind of reminds me of Dale Earnhardt. Obviously, I'm not old enough to have seen him, but I've heard stories about him, and I've seen highlights of him driving, and it's just, it just reminds you of him. And I'm not saying Chastain is, 7-time champion Dale Earnhardt, but just the way he drives and that show he puts on for the fans. I mean, it's all good for the sport. What's not good for the sport is when they're, running each other off the track and fighting off the track and everything, because Chastain's just making silly mistakes when he tries to be over aggressive. But yeah, so hopefully they get that figured out. But over the past couple weeks, he's been doing all right. He hasn't really had a big major slip up in a couple of races. But another big thing this year I'm going to get to is penalties. Penalties have been given out left and right for the entire season. Earlier in the year, teams like Hendrick and Collard were hit with large penalties for messing with single source parts. So with the next gen car, you can't really alter parts on your cars like you used to be able to. They got to mostly be the same. So when teams mess with these parts, then they're hit with these big penalties. Chase Elliott also recently served a one-race suspension. He kind of lost his temper on, once again, Denny Hamlin during the Coke 600. I think he thought Hamlin ran out of room at the top, and he came back and did a hard right rear hooked Denny Hamlin right into the wall of the dog leg at a very fast Charlotte track, and that's just something that you can't really do in NASCAR. It's hooking someone head on into the wall, especially at a track like Charlotte. It's a really big deal. It's dangerous to the safety of Denny Hamlin and Chase Elliott and anyone that might be behind them, and it just can't be in the sport. So his suspension was certainly justified, but other than that, though, there's been a lot of other things, not necessarily on track, but like I mentioned earlier, messing with parts that you can't mess with. So, like Chase Briscoe's team last week, his Stewart-Haas Racing team, they were hit with the largest ever penalty in NASCAR, losing 25 playoff points, 125 driver points, and a $250,000 fine because they included a counterfeit part on his Coke 600 car, and everybody said he honestly did not really run that well. So it kind of sucks for him. But and then just today, I also heard that Legacy Motor Club was hit with a penalty as well, being stripped of 60 driver points, 5 playoff points, and a $75 fine, and a 2-race suspension for the crew chief of driver Eric Jones. The 43 team was found to have modified a greenhouse part for post-race inspection, and again, you can't mess with parts that are uniform for these new cars. It's just not allowed in the sport anymore, and just the way the new car is, that's just how it is, and NASCAR's clearly not afraid to be giving out penalties. So that's kind of all I have for this episode of Victory Lane Sports. I'm your host, Noah, once again, And please be sure to like and subscribe, and I'll see you guys next time.